Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Welcome to Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're streaming live on Rumble. At the moment, we're on YouTube and we're on X. Join us wherever you can for one more person's view on a global conflict that's extremely complex and confusing. But perhaps there are assets and aspects of it that we can perhaps we can come to some determined perspectives on something like whether or not the United States of America should be involved in the escalating conflict between Iran and Israel. Certainly Tucker Carlson don't think we should get involved. You're right, Jake. How are you coping over there with reality?
Life, man, life. What do we think about it?
I'm fine. It's difficult, isn't it? Like that. What just now, Isaac? I mean, we're in the fortunate position of, like, we got members of our team. We've got a Jewish man. We've got ourselves a Jew. We've also got Massey, who's does a lot of our post-production, vital member of our team, Iranian.
And Canadian, kind of.
Iranian, Canadian. He's got an English
British
accent. I don't understand him. I've been working with him for a while. I don't know how to...
How can you say that you're not a man of the people? Look at all the people that you've hired.
Also, if you can have complex gender fluidity, and there are certain days where I can understand that ideological argument, where you can say, look, I don't want to be burdened by what it is to be a man. Like me, actually. Like when you're a father, it was Father's Day yesterday, you've got children, you've got responsibilities. That's it. Testosterone, husband, daughters, son. You're a man, son. Get on with your job. Get on with it. You know, there are days where I'd like to go, do you know what? I'm a pixie. Let me I want to go down the woods and do pixie shit. I don't want to come up with complex arguments about whether or not militarily it's beneficial to the United States of America to support Israel, what the relationship between Israel and America is, the responsibility of the British because of the carving up of that region, the Balfour Treaty. I don't know what to do anymore. And I don't think anyone else knows either. But let us know in the comments and chat if you've got a solution, that if you want to tiptoe through these daisies with us. Before we get into Israel, Iran, and escalating tensions and the fractures and fissures that's causing in even MAGA spaces, Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, for example, saying that they don't want American dollars to support Israel's conflict with Iran. Before we get into that, let's have a look at the less complex ideas that are emerging out of the United Kingdom, where it becomes clear that whether it's digital ID or eating bugs, the British media are willing to carry water for the establishment. Look at that. That's in The Guardian. Digital ID would be good for Britain and a secret weapon against reform, against patriotism. This is TikToker looking at Keir Starmer. He's still the leader of the UK, although there's a lot of online stuff going on now, man. It may not be long for Keir Starmer. Although, over the weekend, I thought, I don't want to be involved in anything other than love. I don't want to put out anything negative about anyone anymore. I felt this sort of exhaustion with it, Jake. I sank down to my knees and felt I can't, even with people that, like, I feel sort of personal grievances against, say, whether that's legacy media or British establishment. I can't carry it anymore. I can't carry the loathing. But let's have a look at this TikToker who seems like he has got time to find ways to be sort of somewhat mean to Keir Starmer. Let's have a look.
Watch this. Watch his face, right? Watch this. This is not fucking right, right? Just watch this. Watch this. Watch. The fuck is going on here? What the fuck? Look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. He is fucking sweating. He's either had a snort or something of that nature, but look at the fucking state of that. For real, look at it.
I mean, that was my face this morning.
Right, you woke up, just have a little, you take a little breath.
That seems like a live face. Just getting hit with it.
Don't you like? This is what I feel like, and let me know how you feel if you've joined us from Mug Club or if you're joining us from Timcast. Ultimately, join us over on Rumble. Rumble support us. They pay us a damn fine wage. They pay us a stipend for our endeavours and our efforts over on Rumble as we continue to speak freely. And what I can tell you about Rumble is they supported me and accommodated me when YouTube turned against me, when the British government turned against me, when the legacy media turned against me. Rumble were like, Free speech, baby. Let this guy speak freely. Do you feel like when you're looking at bombs raining down on Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or Tehran or the rubble in Gaza, do you feel like, well, I just got to get my kids to school, man. I just got to earn a living. I just got to pay for my children. I just got to keep grinding. Do you sometimes feel that you are not evolved or designed to accommodate geopolitical complexity? Man, when I look at scripture and I think of even like a giant of the Old Testament, like David, it's odd to call him a giant given mostly he's a giant slayer really, when I think of like the complexity of his life, being in exile because his son wants to claim the throne, or returning to the throne and finding like another one of his sons is turning against him and refusing to honor his preferred inheritor, Solomon, obviously being his preferred inheritor. And I feel like, wow, at least I suppose in those days you were dealing with regional tribal wars and the establishment of nations, and an ark where you're carrying God, where God is something you're communicating with. God is someone, something that you've got, that you can conceptualize, and territory is something you can understand and fight for, where your enemies and opponents can be understood to be people whose names you know, whose tribal wars date back to a time that you, at least you can feel the dust and ashes and blood on your own hands and on your own sword. Now, so how are we meant to conceptualize this, Jake? Well, should Iran be allowed to develop nuclear capacity? Should France? Should England? Should America? Who's got the right to kill one another? Who can answer those questions now? John Mearsheimer? Jeffrey Sachs? Donald Trump? The leader of your country? Hey, I went on Candace Owens when I was in Nashville, and like even like my own relationships, I'm friends with Dave Rubin and do a podcast with him. You know, he's a Jewish man. He's very pro-Israel. I'm friends with Candace Owens. She got a podcast. She very, I guess you would have to say, anti-Israel, I guess it would be a way of describing her position.
She has Jewish employees too.
Right.
So she can't really hate Jews. She's got.
I don't think any of us can really like. That's why I was like thinking. You know, maybe let's just get random Iranians. Well, no, not random Iranians, because there's very specific Iranians. Massey, who works for us, and a random Jewish man, Isaac, and just go, look, come on, should we work this out? Because I don't reckon that we would, left to ourselves, left to our own devices, escalate these conflicts in the casual, faceless, anonymous way that seems to be possible when you're operating under the auspices of giant nations that appear to be puppeted by interests that go beyond all of us. Do the people of Israel benefit from the policies of Netanyahu? Do the people of Gaza benefit from the ideals of Hamas? Do the people of the UK benefit from the ideas of Starmer? And increasingly, certainly people are asking, are America going to benefit under the presidency of Donald Trump if there's an escalating global conflict that could lead to thermonuclear war? Before we get into that, eat the bugs is being popularized. Eat them. I don't think that you can have like an Iron Man athlete that's living on a diet of bugs. Let me know what you think, Paul Schrober, Desert X Rider, Noel 2024. I'm talking to all of our friends in the Rumble chat, as well as my beloved friends ploughing on in locals, even as it becomes evident and clear that Rumble Premium is ultimately the paywalled financial goal of this business model. I love you, Claude, Jude Syke, What's It To Ya, all of the locals members. I'm seeing, well, look at this right now. Rusky 73. Free Israel. Israel took my lunch money. The last of the Mohicans was a dirt worshipper Jew. I mean, wherever you look, you will eat the bugs. Let's have a look at British media normalizing eating bugs, which to me seems like, even when you were a fan, say, let's call it a fan of St. Peter and St. Peter's vision, that a canopy is being lowered from the heavens, and on that canopy there are reptiles, birds, and four-legged beasts, and Peter receives the holy message. There is no one that is unclean. Go out to the Gentiles. Start converting the Gentiles to the faith, because it was assumed up till then that the only followers of the way, as they called it then, could be circumcised Jews. But increasingly we believe it's the heart that's got to be circumcised. The heart. Circumcise your heart. Have a raw, bare heart. Although I'm in a room with American men, and I know I'm the only dude in this room with a foreskin.
Here we go.
There we go.
The flavour's quite light. They're sort of hollow. I'd say it tastes a little bit like a very mildly flavoured nut. There's nothing revolting about it, no back taste, nothing that makes me want to heave. It tastes... in fact, I like a bit of salt on that.
Yeah.
Richard Madeley, man, that dude's been operating in TV spaces for a long time. It was one of the thresholds that I crossed over into normal UK domestic fame. If you're like a European person or a non-US resident or citizen, you go through the threshold of becoming famous in your own country, generally. Like, that's a nice little threshold to become UK famous, to appear on UK daytime TV, to go through normal, exciting, non-controversial fame before you go into the, oh, I'm controversial famous now. Uh-oh, I'm so controversial famous. Bam, 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 bam. I'm getting Tehran. I'm getting my own COVID. I'm getting my own Me Too. I'm getting my own everything heaped upon me. There was an innocent time where being famous just meant, you know, wow, I'm getting a table at a restaurant. Wow, girls are attracted to me, man. This is pretty cool. I'm talking about decades ago, early fame. And Richard Madeley, he's one of the gatekeepers out there, and there he is now, just gnawing on the bugs. You can, like, when you've got a little bit of first-person schooling in media spaces, you get to understand how this particular New York Times article or this particular Rolling Stones cover all are easy participants in an overall kind of blast of centralized information. You will eat the bugs. You will vote for this war. You will carry an ID card. In this instance, it's just simply normalizing, chowing down on bugs. You know, when St. Peter said, we're all participants, there's nothing unclean, I don't think even in that, I don't think he mentions reptiles, he mentions birds. I don't think he ever says, them locusts. Don't look at a plague of locusts as a problem. That's a snack.
On that.
Yeah.
So that would be the snack. Right, now this is the dinner. This is minced cricket in a kind of a, chilli sauce, I think.
I just don't want to hear minced cricket as like what. I don't want to arrive home after a day's graft and toil and hear the phrase minced cricket. I don't want to hear that. I'll take one as my conscience, like little Pinocchio, but I will not take one as my dinner. You will not make me eat those things. Every time I when my molars crunch down on the back of a cockroach, I just see Klaus Schwab's face. I feel the saliva in his cheekaboos. I feel the hand of the WEF on my shoulder. I feel the global policeman pushing the barrel of their gun into the small of my back. And even though we got bigger fish to fry, we ain't got bigger cockroaches to fry. We're going to be talking about the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran. It's a war. Who's going to be involved in this war? Do you want your country funding it? Do you want your tax dollars funding it? What do we do now, baby? Let's forget about the bugs. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be with you for a few more minutes there. If you're watching us on X, we'll stay with you for as long as we can. But ultimately, we want you to join us on Rumble Premium. It's a good platform. On Rumble Premium, we do additional content. When we go over to Nashville to participate in a PFL MMA event, join us on that. We'll stream live from these events. We'll give you additional content. In fact, we'll show you over the course of the week some of the stuff that we made while we were over there in Nashville. It was interesting, man. Like, while sitting ringside at an MMA event that's, you know, PFL is a much smaller league than UFC, and I think that when you enter into the sort of storm of glamour, of brutal glamour around a UFC event where Trump might arrive like Caesar, where you might see Elon Musk, where you'll hear the familiar tones of Joe Rogan, all of that paraphernalia accompanies the excellent brutality in the ring. You don't have some of the feelings I felt there in Nashville, like sometimes on the undercard, you know, before it got to the great fight between Jason Jackson and new likely champion Thad Gene. While I was watching the earlier fights, you know, what sort of struck me is the kind of simian activity in the crowd, watching someone crane around to get a better view of some brutality, like the sort of the indifference of an attractive woman tapping away on their phone as they kind of work. Now, there was that final fight of the night. There was some excellence on display, and it is brilliant to watch warriors practice their craft. But when you're watching brutality conducted in front of a crowd that's sort of like drifting around or munching on snacks or shouting drunken xenophobic phrases, you feel like, at least I feel like, wow, man, we got to edge back from the violence in us. We got to find some compassion in us. This has got to be a season of mercy, or it's going to be a season of relentless destruction. Yeah, I don't like it either, Rumble Foreskin, when I get a peanut stuck on my tongue. Like, if I get something stuck in my tooth and it's got an antennae on it, it's over for me. The apostles were Jews, says the Devolt. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about that. Let's get into the serious business of war. Iran and Israel are involved in a hot war. They are bombing each other's sovereign nations. There's no nice way of describing it. In the Yemen, it's being streamed like kind of entertainment. I guess that's where we live now. I guess we're in an age where political leaders come from entertainment backgrounds, whether it's Donald Trump or Volodymyr Zelensky. And we now, thanks to technology, thanks to GoPros and easy access and drones, we live in an age where the actual process of bombardment can be streamed live into your home. Have a look at this sort of uneasy spectacle of the citizens of Yemen enjoying the retaliatory strikes of Iran on Israel, and ask yourself, can either side be right when this is the business of war? Now, I'd come to terms with the idea of sport being sanitized war. Games have a spiritual component and a component of brutality. Obviously, when it's physical combat, like MMA in the UFC or PFL, but even baseball or football or soccer have a conflict component that allow us to catharsize our own deep feelings of darkness and pain that we feel on a day-to-day quotidian parochial level. Every day I nurse the injuries of my childhood. I walk wounded through life, and turning sport into sanitized war, or at least observing it as such, is something that I guess we can accommodate. But when war becomes emboldened and more punitive and consequential sport, wow, that's another level. Let me know how you feel about war as entertainment. I suppose it's a natural evolution as news as entertainment. Once we had 24-hour cable news, well, I guess that was a step in that direction. Now we have independent news medium. Whatever your flavor, there's someone that will support you. You could be watching Rachel Maddow right now in consternation, or Joe Scarborough, or Brett Baer, or Stephen Crowder, or me, or Sam Cedar, like he's like a left-wing version, or Owen Jones, who does such great reporting on Middle Eastern conflict, and in particular the situation in Gaza. There's someone that has your view. Maybe you like the Tim Dillon perspective, or Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, I reckon, is one of the early and significant voices that traveled from the mainstream into independent media and holds and heralds a significant audience. In our item Unpacked, where we offline do a deeper dive into the news of the day, we talked about Tucker Carlson's article. That will be posted on the Rumble channels a little later today. Here's Tucker Carlson's post, which in a sense I reckon captures the sentiment of many Americans and the challenge of trying to be anti-war without being anti-Semite. Let's have a look. Tucker turns on Trump is how it's been reported by some. Ex-Fox News host blasts complicit president for backing Israel. And of course, Alex Jones, who's been a significant figure for a number of years now, whether you figure that's in the conspiratorial or more mainstream, mainline MAGA space, supports Tucker. Here he is. He's right. Trump is aiding and abetting Israel's attempt to trigger total war with Iran. Most military experts agree leads to closing the Strait of Hormuz and all-out war in the Middle East. The world's never been closer to thermonuclear war. Trump doesn't deny the possibility of American financial and even military support, says it's a possibility. Now, many people believe that the key motivation is to impede and prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons. The assumption being that Iran are a state or a nation that can't be afforded that capacity or that ability. And I reckon that people that know that a lot more about this conflict than I do would say that Iran have been backing Hamas and various agitators in this conflict, and to view it through the lens of Gaza as a bombed out and genocided region and population is myopic, because there are, whether it's Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis, there are Iranian-backed interests in that region, and war for the last 100 years and maybe always has been fought by proxies, i.e. the Ukraine-Russia war is ultimately a NATO-Russia war, and perhaps even a United States and Russia war that's having to be navigated and negotiated. And many people thought that the election of Trump would mean the ceasing of that sublimated dynamic and an explicit conflict that could be explicitly resolved. Now we have the complex and difficult escalation that will likely involve Iran, Russia, China, the United States of America. In short, a world war, a true world war that perhaps won't be conducted in the good old glorious sentimental manner of the Second World War, or even the grinding early industrial terror of the First World War, but in a kind of new capacity that's truly apocalyptic, that's Armageddon at the end of a hand, because, of course, of the facility and utility that we now have. Now, Tulsi Gabbard testified not so long ago that she doesn't believe that Iran have nuclear capacity, but the idea of Iran developing nuclear weapons is a trope or narrative that's gone on for a long, long time. People have always said, oh, well, we can't let Iran develop nuclear weapons. Well, I don't know, man. Why not? Do you think that there's a point that we get to where people might grab you by the throat and say, listen, you, imagine it was me, imagine it was you, say, listen, do you know what the real threat is? Like, if China get in true ascendancy, they will house us all in cells. We'll all be hived off. If Russia assume the role of a unipolar power, we're all doomed. We're all finished. You need to back the United States of America. You need to back the United States of America's allies in the Middle East. Do you think that that's the real threat here? How do you see this playing out? Let me know in the comments and chat, with emergent potential BRICS, with alternative currencies emerging, with the dollar potentially tanking, with America still, I suppose, in a fragile position. What does American debt mean when it comes to American military action? What does the various bifurcations, separations, fissures and conflicts across the United States right now? I mean, like last week we were just talking about LA riots, then we were talking about the spat between Elon and Trump. Now we're talking about potential war in a nation that seems quite divided, even with MAGA, within a movement that necessarily was somewhat cohesive. It was cohesive enough to get Trump elected by a near landslide. There are now divisions, sectarianism. Let's have a look at first at what Tulsi Gabbard said about Iranian capacity. Hey, yo, thanks Crowder for the raid. And if you're joining us from Mug Club, I hope you're having a good time here. If you're watching us on X or YouTube, get over and join us on Rumble. It's Rumble that ensures that we're financially, spiritually supported, and that we're protected from various nefarious forces that seem less and less important and relevant as we stand on the brink of a holy war. What are my problems, Mal? What's a few false allegations on the edge of Armageddon, baby?
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Jake, what's your take home from that clip?
Her gray streak, did it kind of move?
Is Tulsi Gabbard's superhero grey streak moving across her forehead? Is she signaling to us, wow, since I've been in government, I've been captured, I'm being controlled? I know Tulsi Gabbard. I know her husband. I don't know him well. I've not seen him since they've been in office, but I like her a lot. I think she's a beautiful human being. I don't know what happens to people once they're in government. I'm not in a position to understand the complexity, but maybe she's communicating through the follicles of her very scalp. Now, this idea that Iran can never be allowed to have nuclear capacity, I don't know, man. Maybe no one should be allowed to have nuclear capacity. That seems like a perfectly reasonable perspective to me. Sorry for the belching. Let's have a look at this ongoing argument that Iran having a nuclear capacity is a massive threat. What about when Iran was like sort of democratizing itself and like America disrupted its ass and balls that all up for us in the 1970s, man?
80s.
80s.
Yeah. Well,
Iran-Contra.
Well, this is our good time for Ask a Jew, because he's got a lot of good thoughts on this.
He's got a lot of good Jewish thoughts. Let's have a look at this, and then we will do Ask a Jew. Only if we've created an asset for it, though.
It take Iran about 12 months to enrich enough nuclear material for a single nuclear weapon.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is warning that Iran is potentially just months away or less from nuclear breakpoint.
Iran is 2 months away from a nuclear weapon, and it's a victory to get them 1 year away?
Iran could be less than a month away from building a nuclear weapon.
I mean, Netanyahu has made 2 tough-talking TV appearances, saying that Iran is just months away from making a nuclear bomb.
What is important to understand is that you have to dismantle the entire terror empire, and especially before its main practitioners, the terror states of Iran and Iraq, acquire nuclear weapons. And this, I think, has been a wake-up call from hell. It is telling us you have the...
Okay, well, we're going to be asking a Jew about this in a matter of moments, but also an Iranian. Is Massi on the line? Can we get Massi as well? Because I'd like to hear what he's saying all the way from Persia. One person whose views are always explicit and always consistent are Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham wants war. He wants it bad. Game on. Pray for Israel, says Lindsey Graham. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's essentially in a sort of what I'd call a Tucker position, an America first. We don't want to escalate this war. If you want to watch our show Unpacked, that's when we record offline deep dives into a news item. But Tucker Carlson essentially has come out and said America should not be involved in this war in any way at all. Like, if Israel want to have a war with Iran, then American taxpayers shouldn't fund it. Let me know what you guys think. Here's Thomas Massi on the subject. Thomas Massi been pretty consistent. Israel don't need US taxpayer monies for defense if it already has enough to start offensive wars. I vote not to fund this war of aggression. Here's Rand Paul. I mean, this is an alliance of people that over the last few years, and I'm talking primarily about matters relating to COVID, where I've come to think I can rely on this dude. Like Thomas Massi, Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I met her at the RNC. She blew my mind. She was like, I think people like that should be in politics. People that are just like, yeah, come on, man. she's like a yeehaw truck driving politician.
She'll come on the show.
Good, get her on. Yeah. I like him. The Americans, let's just read this, because Rand Paul's, I don't know, man, I kind of like him. The American people overwhelmingly oppose our endless wars, and they voted that way when they voted for Trump. Is that a good assessment? I urge Trump to stay the course, keep putting America first, and not to join in any war between other countries. Every American should hope and pray for peace. War with Iran is not in America's interest. It would destabilize the region, cost countless lives, and drain our resources for generations. We should pursue diplomacy, not destruction. Engaging in dialogue with adversaries is not weakness, it's the strength of a confident nation seeking peace. Our primary responsibility is to protect American lives. I don't know, difficult to argue with that, but in a minute we will try and do exactly that with Massi, our Iranian producer, and our, not Israeli actually, I don't know why you're being called in to support Israel. I mean, you're Jewish. I mean, I'm sure that, who else could we get on the line? We could get on a whole variety of very vocal Jewish people who demand less aggression from Israel in this conflict. Anyway, listen, we'll get into all of that in a matter of moments. If you're watching us on YouTube, click the link in the description. And if you're watching it anywhere else, here's a quick word from one of our partners. Check it out. We'll be back with a variety of views. Free speech is under attack, Jack, but Rumble refuses to take it lying down. Rumble is farting out the fierce cock of authoritarianism and clamping shut the butt cheeks of free speech, baby. We've always believed in empowering voices, no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollary dues, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their back, claiming Rumble had a right-wing culture. But we're not here to fit a mold. We're here to defend free expression. How dare you? How dare you? Just look at some of these comments. Keep it going, Russell. Great stuff.
Isaac, you hear me?
From Benito Mussolini. Well done.